This is the Eye for an Eye channel. Welcome to today's show. I want to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Elon Musk. We continue to see Elon Musk every year on Satan's favorite holiday, reveal himself to the people out there because they love to use Halloween, not just as a day of celebrating Satan himself. They love to use this day and dress up in costumes and show you really who they are and who they worship. Yet many of the dumbed down people out there, because they believe that Twitter, or now known as X, is a beacon of freedom and free speech because they don't censor apparently on that platform, even though I've seen plenty of content censored. I also see the same nonsense fact-checking boxes thrown underneath every single post made over there. But for some reason, the dumbed down society we live in, the people who claim to be conservative or Republican, seem to love this guy, even though he's tied into pretty much every single agenda that would be tied in to the New World Order, including the Neuralink, which I'll get into, including, of course, other agendas like, I don't know, pretending to go out into space when you can't, right? There's plenty of things that Elon Musk is involved in that should wake people up. The Neuralink, most importantly, should make people frightened, and of course, the AI technology that he promotes. But I just want to start by showing you what he decided to dress as this year on Halloween, because why not? Elon Musk decided to dress as Anubis, these Egyptian loser gods that these Satanists worship. This is all obviously in their teachings. This goes back to Babylonian teachings. You could see this even in the Freemasonic books. They have their Freemasonic Bibles that inside these Bibles teach of all the Egyptian gods. So he decided to dress up as this giant dog, which is pretty embarrassing, but that's what these people are. They love these Egyptian gods. And of course, Anubis is, he is a conductor of souls. He is associated with the dead and the underworld. And of course, this should be something that conservatives see, and they should say to themselves, hey, these Egyptian gods are a problem. We should be. But they don't. Just like when Elon Musk dressed up last year. What did he dress up as last year? Does anybody know? Come on, wait for it, right? I covered it last year. Oh, he had the Baphomet, right, on his chest, and everybody out there was like, what's the big deal, right? He just has the Baphomet right in front of your faces, but he's a beacon of hope, and there's nothing wrong with this guy. Now, of course, let's talk a little bit more about the Neuralink, because we're hearing more and more stories promoting the brain chip. And here's another article from within the last week or so, 2 weeks, from The Economist, by the way. If you don't know The Economist, they always have covers on their yearly magazine with predictive programming all over it, showing you what's to come in the year, and usually it does come true. And what they're trying to do now is ease people in to the reality of the brain implant and getting them to want the brain implant. So they're continually desensitizing people, but just putting story after story after story out. I've been covering it as much as I can because it's very integral and key to people not falling into this deception. And this has to do with Elon Musk as well, because Elon Musk is coming in from the other angle now because he's a conservative, supposedly, and they want to seduce both sides with, again, the option of, you could pick which brain chip you want. You could be a liberal and go to Bill Gates' brain chip, or you can be a Republican and go to Elon Musk, but you need to have it, kind of like the magic potion, right? Oh, Donald Trump's the one who released it, so conservatives should go and get it. Oh, but then we switch presidents, so now everybody is liberal, is pro-magic potion. I mean, it's all, at the end of the day, as they work everyone into psyops, you'll notice the things that they really want everyone to have, they will not, even like in the beginning, the conservative media was pro-magic potion for a year or two, and then finally they were just like, yeah. After everybody finally took it, they got enough of the Republicans to take it, conservatives to take it. The same thing will be with this. They'll talk about the brain implant like it's a great thing because it's going to solve diseases. It's going to help. It's going to help us move forward. And I mean, this article says our brain implants, the future of computing. It is early, but research is well underway. Now they have a video I'm going to show you. It's pretty frightening, where they talk about wearable eyeglasses that can read your mind. And again, people will be like, wow, that's really cool. I've talked recently about how they're getting people who have disabilities, which is they always start with that. They start with stories, sympathetic stories where people are like, that's wonderful, right? Somebody has Parkinson's, somebody can't talk.
neurological issues. Well, the brain chip helps them speak through an interface with the chip and a computer, so whatever they're thinking will go right on the screen of the computer, and then the computer will say it out loud. And people are like, that's wonderful. That's an advancement. We need this type of technology. And then eventually it ends up in a 7-year-old who doesn't need it. And we have a completely controlled society because they all have brain chips where they don't realize that it's not you who's giving out information to the computer as much as it's the computer who's sending information and sending things into your brain and controlling it. But again, they'll never tell you that. Take a look at this clip and keep in mind at the end of the clip, I'll talk afterwards. The human cyborg, the world's first human cyborg. These are all things that they are promoting. They are just desensitizing you to, and they are preparing you for.
Imagine computers that can read your mind. And brain implants that control computers by thought alone.
Everybody is fascinated about the idea of potentially being able to control things just using their mind.
This technology could revolutionize everything, from astronauts in space to care for the severely paralyzed.
He'll save his life by turning himself into the world's first cyborg.
The gap between the virtual and real worlds is closing. But how long till headsets and screens disappear?
This is not the real world.
And the Matrix is no longer fiction. This is the headquarters of Varjo, a startup company based in Finland. It might look like they've created a typical VR experience, but it's not. Varjo has created a headset which is changing how people interact with virtual and computer-generated worlds by changing how their brains engage with them.
Here in this example we have a Volvo car based on a CAD model that was just transformed into fully photorealistic, accurate replica of the actual design model.
Varjo's groundbreaking headset is built using advanced eye tracking technology. This means only the part of the image the eye is looking at needs to be processed. And with no perceivable lag, it feels realistic.
We design optics and displays that make it possible to see in the same resolution as your own eyes see. This means that whatever we replicate looks exactly the same as it would look like in the real world.
Photorealism is one of the first steps towards convincing our brains that computer-generated simulations are real. But achieving this will also require improvements to devices called brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs. The Varjo headset uses hardware and software from a company called OpenBCI.
A BCI is a brain-computer interface, so it's essentially a way for the brain to directly interface with computers by reading out signals from the brain.
The term brain-computer interface was coined in the 1970s in California. The aim was to control external objects using signals from the brain. But it's only within the last 20 years that researchers have started to pull this off.
Turn right. And fire.
Today, there are two kinds of BCIs. The first type are called non-invasive and can take the form of portable devices.
Using non-invasive ways of reading out brain activity, those signals are directly translated into ways of controlling computers, whether it's a video game or it's a robotic arm or any sort of machine.
To make computers better at reading brain signals, scientists need to get better at understanding the brain.
You can't put a BCI on, think to yourself, do I want to eat, fried chicken or a sandwich or salad for lunch, and then think of it and then order it online. You don't have clear brain regions for fried chicken versus salad in the brain. If we know what the brain activity is that we're looking for in the brain region, then we can use that signal to control a BCI.
Improving the understanding of the brain could lead to the type of BCI featured in the film Ready Player One. Set in 2045, it shows much of humanity escaping the real world by using headsets which fully immerse their brains in the oasis, a near-perfect virtual reality simulation. Getting the design of non-invasive BCIs right is vital to fulfilling their potential. Some find devices like headsets impractical and bulky. But scientists are bringing designs down to size.
On top you can see one of the early prototypes of attentive view glasses, which have sensors on the back of the ears.
Dr. Natalia Kosmina is a technologist at MIT who is working on a series of new designs in conjunction with NASA.
We have a project with NASA about optimizing performance of astronauts.
The project is using this technology to read the brain activity of astronauts on missions to the International Space Station in order to monitor their health and performance.
So it's a suite of different wearable wireless sensing devices that can pick up brain activity, eye movements, and those can be put in the form factor of a pair of glasses. We're gonna try on a pair of attentive view glasses. So we can pick up the brain activity using these electrodes.
The attentive view glasses allow someone to answer questions by simply thinking of the answer. The computer is able to understand their answer by recording their brain waves.
So what Karim will need to do is using only his brain activity to give an answer to this question. So do you like it here?
Yes.
Okay, did we get it right? I assume yes.
It's a technology that offers great promise on Earth as well as in space. For example, for people suffering from neurodegenerative disorders like ALS, which causes a loss in the ability to communicate.
What we actually are doing, we are providing them with this basic communication. The caregiver can ask a question to the patient, and the patient can respond yes, no.
These devices also have the potential to physically alter the brain and change how it works.
Try not to think about anything. So if we ask people to think about a wall or a chair, and just rest your hand for 10 seconds, okay? Okay.
Professor Suk Lee Liu is a neuroscientist who has been working in this field for over 10 years.
Over time, if you train or practice with a BCI a lot, you can actually see changes in both the brain activity patterns that people have and in the brain structures. Using a BCI can not only replace or serve as a compensatory role for replacing function, but it can actually also help to rehabilitate or restore brain networks and pathways. And it's essentially like a brain training sort of tool.
One day, the world may wake up to the reality of another kind of brain-computer interface. The invasive kind, when the Matrix will no longer be just a Hollywood dream. Invasive BCIs promise the future merger of brains and computers through surgical implants. It's early days for this technology, and so far testing has mostly been done on animals rather than humans. Like this monkey, Pager.
Pager simply thinks about moving his hand up or down.
With electrodes surgically inserted into his brain, he is able to play the game Pong simply by thinking about moving his hand up or down and sending brain signals to the computer. The experiment was conducted by Elon Musk's company, Neuralink. Neuralink says its ultimate aim is to improve the lives of humans with impaired abilities. However, its experiments have proved controversial.
Protesters lining up calling for Neuralink's animal testing labs to be shut down.
The company says it has euthanized 8 monkeys, but insists it has followed the law at all times. Invasive BCIs can also pose ethical and health risks for humans.
So they actually have to cut your skull open and then implant an electrode and then put the skull back on.
Despite this, many consider these implants to be the most promising path to removing the gap between the virtual and real worlds.
The most accurate tend to be the ones that are implanted in the brain. The upside is that you're reading directly from neural populations, so the cells in the brain that are actually firing.
Invasive BCIs have the potential to integrate human biology with technology in unprecedented ways. And scientists are slowly moving in this direction. In 2018, scientist Peter Scott Morgan offered his own body to his profession. He suffered from motor neurone disease and allowed surgeons to implant various chips into his body in the hope of extending his life.
Whatever happens, we will learn from it and we will do it better the next time.
The pioneering operations helped him live for another 4 years until his death in 2022. The brain remains one of humanity's greatest enigmas. Technology that melds the brain with computers opens up new possibilities, highlighting both how powerful the brain is and how little it is understood. While scientists are a long way from understanding its secrets, there are grounds for both hope and concern.
It's a very scary thought when you start looking into what you could do when you're directly interfacing the brain. Yet at the same time, you can completely understand that this is the trajectory we are on.
So imagine devices that can read your mind or computers that can be controlled by thought alone. Yeah, no thank you. It may sound like science fiction, but scientists are already merging mind and machine with brain-computer interfaces. Now, they already have this technology ready. I've said this before, but they are way ahead more ahead than you could possibly imagine with the type of technology they tell you they have. Way, way ahead. But to normalize these things, they can't just roll it out and say, there's a brain chip available at Best Buy. Oh, okay, I'm going to go get it. Right? I'm sure there'd be some moron that would go get it. They need to get people desensitized to the technology because people are fearful at first. Like, whoa, that sounds dangerous. Whoa, I don't need that. Right? When the Alexa first came out, I mean, everybody was like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Now, not everybody has that stupid thing. It's not like 90% of households have it. But it eased people in. Alexa eased people into getting things like the Ring. And a lot of people have the Ring because they start pumping out fear content, like saying, hey, there's so many robberies all over. Get the Ring. It's $100. It's convenient, right? So then you're putting cameras on your home. You're giving them surveillance of your property, of whether you're pulled into, if you're home or not. You know, the thing can see if you pull into your driveway, et cetera, et cetera. It's monitoring the neighborhood. You're pretty much just putting cameras for them all around the country. And all this stuff goes back to the NSA. Right? Well, with this, obviously it sounds frightening. Even zombies out there be like, I don't know if I want to have a brain implant because I don't know if I want surgery on my brain. I don't know if nobody wants to go under the knife, etc. And they're going to make this easier because even I covered this before, Elon Musk, and I won't put the clip in here, but I did a video on it where Elon Musk talked about how you can have the brain chip. This will be available via injection. You won't have to have yourself operated on. Right? So that'll make people less and less scared. And what do we have going on right now? They're trying to make people more and more comfortable with injections. So this is about the desensitizing of people to get ready for this, to not be afraid of it. And then story after story after story will come out about how wonderful this is and how it's saving lives and how people are they're living longer and they're better educated. They're getting better paying jobs. You name it, whatever they can think of to manipulate people into getting it, they will use. They say this technology offers great promise, particularly for people suffering with disorders, neurological disorders, and neurodegenerative disorders. But research has also raised health and ethical concerns with regard to experiments on animals, for example. And the thing with that is that they always will raise this like ethical concern thing because they want you to think that they have your best interest in mind. That's the only reason they say it. They're like, whoa, there's ethical concerns. Because they don't want, if they come out and they just go, it's 100% safe, everything's wonderful, people are just more suspicious. So they go, well, ethical concerns, we gotta just keep working on it to make it better and better. And people are like, okay, well, I'll wait then until you come out with more data. And then they just come out with more fake data a year later. And like, now we've seen an improvement of 95%. Oh, okay, right here with the magic potion. What are other things you hear with the ethical concerns? I just covered with the cloning again, where they were talking about cloning and people weren't going, why are we doing this? They just were like, for ethical, we need to monitor this for ethical purposes because, we care so much about society. We don't want anything to possibly go wrong and we don't want anything to be, ethically, disturbing to people. And again, those are all tactics used to manipulate. So as we get closer to the brain chip, right, we're going to see human trials this year. You're going to hear stories about positivity. 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 Just like with the potion. All you heard stories about it. How it works. How it works. How it works. Don't worry about any of the other stuff, which I can't say here on this channel. All it is manipulation. It's lies. It desensitizes your brain. Your brain hears these things, and whether you on the surface level are even thinking about it, your brain still processes it and stores it. So the more it hears it, the repetition it hears, it's just over and over and over again. You subconsciously start to believe it. That's what happens in the school system. Why do you think it's so important? I say this all the time. To be in school for so long and to learn the same thing over and over and over again for 15 years. Because they need to beat it into your head so that your reality that you perceive is all these lies that they create. Right? From the moon to the history of the world. All these stories they want to put in so that they can have a base of what your perception of reality is. And then they can control that base. So the repetition is key here for them, especially with things like technology and easing you in with how wonderful it can be and how safe it will be. And the brain chip is a big one. And again, it will be available in injectable, and you'll be able to put it in you in a different way other than having your head cut open. And again, this will alternate you. This will change you. This will mix iron and clay. This will make you no longer human, and you will be controlled. Just like that clip I've played over and over from Stretch Armstrong, a stupid cartoon. And we've seen it in dozens of movies. We've seen it in dozens of shows like Westworld. That is the end game goal for them, where free will is gone and they're in control of humanity and the human race. And people are willingly, freely giving this to them. Don't be dumb enough to do it. I thank you for being here. Hope you're doing well. God bless all of you and your families.